I'm going to say this straight out. You cannot, and should not, try to fix anime. Alright? Welcome back to OtakuDaiKun. You know, it's been a while since I was into Pokémon. I'm a Gen 1 fan, and I pretty much dropped it when they dropped Misty. But I do love seeing Pokémon games evolve from their basic Game Boy origins into fully fledged 3D worlds. I got a taste of that in Pokémon Stadium, but that's nothing compared to the likes of Pokémon X, Y, and now especially Sword and Shield. Thanks to this upcoming game, and Detective Pikachu being friggin' adorable, my interest in the franchise is growing. But just as I start to get invested, SJWs sweep in and try to ruin my excitement once again. The key issue? A midriff. Not more than a day or so ago, Nintendo revealed at E3 Pokémon Sword and Shield's new water gym leader, Nessa. She's a confident, dark-skinned beauty whose charm is only matched by the intimidating size of her Pokémon. Like wildfire, amazing anime artists harnessed their fandom and impeccable skills to flood the internet with pristine fan art of this character. Nessa's reception, as a whole, is overwhelmingly positive. For me, it's nice to see Nintendo slowly crawl out of their former depths of censorship when they edited extra clothes onto trainer sprites, and, God forbid, the swimmer winking at the player. But nowadays, the internet's got people censoring their characters for them. I stumbled across this edit on Twitter. They claim her design was too sexualized, and her back was unrealistic, so they fixed her, as it were. Mind you, this isn't the only fix I've seen floating around, but it is the most iconic. A different user posted these other women of Pokémon, saying that they need to put on more clothes. Some argue that Nintendo is fetishizing people of color, but I can straight up say that's a load of garbage. If that were true, they'd be technically fetishizing almost everyone, which I don't really mind. As for the shape of her back, she's not a real person, and it's a stylized decision to give her that sort of dynamic pose. Animation uses squash and stretch all the time to make things more dynamic, and even though this is a still pose, the slight bend in the back that she has, as unrealistic as it may seem, sends just the tiniest hint of sassiness from her. And that's part of the design, I suppose. First off, there's nothing wrong with artists putting their own spin on the character. We all have the right to our opinion, but this edit and its caption clearly try to argue that the original design is wrong, and I won't have that. Okay, so let's talk about my favorite topic, sexualization. It's truly a slippery subject. Sexualization is the act of looking at something or someone in a sexual manner. Sometimes this is a matter of focusing on the biological differences between men and women, namely a fixation on genitalia, or masculine and feminine traits. And other times, it's a matter of taking something non-sexual and making it sexual or arousing. To that end, yeah, it's sexualizing to run around without covering one's genitals. They're literally tools for sex, and people almost immediately think of someone's sexual utility simply by seeing them. But you know what isn't inherently sexual? Breasts. They're meant for feeding infants, which, yeah, come from sex, but men have them too in an underdeveloped form. So why do we make women cover their breasts while men can run around shirtless? Culture. Interacting with a woman's breasts has become an integral part of sex, and Puritan values over many years have thus labeled them as indecent. Ironically, we can do the same thing with men. Guys can be pleasured there too. So why do we get a free pass on exposure? What I'm trying to say is that we, as people, made these things sexual, meaning that we can just as easily get over it if we want to. But Nessa's breasts aren't even emphasized. She's not very busty at all. Thus, her issue seems to be the glorious midriff. I'll admit, a slender or toned midriff is what I find most attractive on a woman. But at the same time, it's just a stomach. We can make a big deal out of it or not, which creates a double standard that women should be free to wear what they want, to express themselves. But at the same time, they mustn't tempt those with indecent eyes. Someone's belly isn't inherently sexual, but because it can be fetishized, people freak out over it being exposed. More often than not, it's really oppressive. Do note, Nessa isn't wearing some recreational string bikini. She's wearing a sports bikini, which clings to her body so that she can swim faster with more mobility. These sorts of outfits are worn by athletes in the Olympics because they're more comfortable and efficient, as pointed out by fellow YouTuber Daitomodachi. It would be insane to criticize women for wearing two-piece sportswear because it turns some people on. Conveniently, people who exercise tend to be healthy, and it shows. Many people are attracted to that, and celebrating that attraction celebrates a person's athleticism just as much as it does their body itself. Why? Because an athlete's body is inherently tied to their accomplishments and autonomy. It's why the Greeks, who started the Olympic Games, idolized the human form. So yeah, Nessa isn't over-sexualized. She's sporty, and many people love that. If there's any looting to be had, it's because people choose to sexualize her. Of course, since this is anime and the internet we're talking about, people most certainly do that. They've already got pics of her giving BJs and taking it in the rear, as well as some pics that thicken her up so much she could pop with the prick of a needle. But you know what? That happens to literally every popular anime character. And in this case, it's not canon. In that regard, Nessa wouldn't be safe even if she were covered up. Just one Nintendo Direct prior, they revealed Sonia, who's literally as clothed as it gets. Fans still love her for her red hair and maturity. She's been looted just as much, which leads me to believe that there's not that much of a difference between the two girls. Fans love them for different reasons, and their artwork shows it. Nessa is not over-sexualized. That's you, the sexist, sexualizing her. Even if you do, that doesn't mean it isn't out of reverence for the character, and a sincere enjoyment of her fitness. Pokémon's a kid-friendly franchise, and it's time we stop shaming women's clothes to the point of oppression. It's a swimsuit. And even if it were an impractical thong, or something deliberately more sexual, it'd be fine for more mature audiences, since fiction is fiction. Anyway, I really wanted to get this off my chest. Thank you for hearing me out. What do you think of this whole debacle? Do you think Nintendo is doing something scandalous for daring to acknowledge women bare their midriffs, while guys go shirtless? Let's get to discussing things below. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy this channel, help me beat the algorithm by liking, commenting, and sharing the video, subscribing to OtakuDaiKun, and most of all, smashing that notification bell as if it were your waifu. That way you'll never miss out on all of my anime content, lore videos, live streams, and Holy Waifu Wars polls. My vids are struggling to get featured, so that bell is absolutely critical. If you want to support me directly, check out my Patreon, or consider donating via Super Chat. And as always, celebrate your fandom.